My name is Maria, and for 15 years I watched my father become the most feared man in Los Angeles. Lee Baca wasn't just the sheriff of LA County. He commanded 18,000 deputies, controlled the largest jail system in America. Politicians feared him. The media praised him. But I knew what he really was. A man who tortured inmates for sport, who covered up beatings, who turned our jails into hell on earth. And I said nothing. Until the day I couldn't anymore. People always ask me, how could you stay silent for so long? They don't understand what it's like when your hero becomes your nightmare. When the man who taught you right from wrong becomes everything wrong with the system. My father, Lee Baca, was elected sheriff of Los Angeles County in 1998. I was 16 years old. I was so proud. My dad protects people, I'd tell my friends. He keeps LA safe. For years, that's what I believed. Until I started working in his department and saw what keeping LA safe really meant. The LA County jail system wasn't just the largest in America. It was a world unto itself. 18,000 deputies, 20,000 inmates, a budget of $3 billion. And my father ruled it all like a king. At home, Dad was different. Quiet. Distant. But I thought that was just the weight of responsibility. You don't understand the burden I carry, Mija, he'd tell me. The things I have to do to keep order. I believed him. When I graduated college in 2007, Dad got me a job in the sheriff's department. Community relations. Help me improve our image, he said. I thought I was helping him serve the community. I had no idea I was helping him hide his crimes. The first red flag came in 2008. I was reviewing complaint files when I noticed a pattern. Inmate injuries. Always the same story. Fell downstairs. Slipped in shower. Resisted arrest. But the photos told a different story. Broken bones. Massive bruising. Injuries that looked like beatings. When I asked Dad about it, he got angry. Those are criminals, Maria. They lie. They hurt each other. Don't believe their stories. So I didn't. I wanted to believe my father was the hero I thought he was. 2011 changed everything. The FBI started investigating our jails. Suddenly, Dad was different. Paranoid. Angry all the time. They're trying to destroy everything we've built, he'd rant at dinner. They don't understand what it takes to maintain order. That's when I learned about the entertainment. Deputy Johnson let it slip during a staff meeting. He was bragging about gladiator fights, forcing inmates to fight each other while deputies bet on the outcome. Your dad loves watching the tough ones break, Johnson laughed. I felt sick. That night, I confronted Dad. Is it true? Are deputies forcing inmates to fight? His answer will haunt me forever. Sometimes you have to break a man to save him, Mija. These aren't good people. They deserve what they get. But it got worse. In 2012, I discovered the Ghost program. Deputies were moving inmates around the jail system to hide them from FBI investigators, changing their names, erasing their records. And Dad was orchestrating all of it. We protect our own, he told his inner circle. No one, not the FBI, not the feds, tells us how to run our jails. That's when I realized my father wasn't protecting inmates from deputies. He was protecting deputies from justice. And I was helping him do it. October 2012. A meeting that changed everything. Dad called together his leadership team. I was there taking notes, just like always. The feds are closing in, Dad said. We need to send a message. That message was Anthony Brown. Anthony was an FBI informant in our jails. Somehow, Dad had found out. Make sure Mr. Brown has an accident, Dad told Deputy Martinez. Nothing fatal. Just enough to remind him who runs these jails. I watched my father order the beating of an FBI informant. And everyone in that room nodded, like it was normal. That night I went home and threw up. 3 days later, Anthony Brown was found beaten unconscious in his cell. Skull fracture. Broken ribs. Internal bleeding. When reporters asked Dad about it, he said, "Jail is a dangerous place. Inmates hurt each other all the time." I watched him lie to the cameras with the same face he used to tell me bedtime stories. That's when I knew. The father I loved was gone. In his place was a monster who tortured people and called it justice. But the breaking point, the moment I couldn't stay silent anymore, came when I found out who was really getting hurt. Dad's targets weren't hardened criminals. They were mostly Black and Latino men. Poor people who couldn't afford lawyers. Mental health patients who needed treatment, not torture. 85% of the disciplinary actions happened to minorities. This wasn't about maintaining order. This was about power. About a system that saw certain people as less than human. And I was part of it. Every report I filed. Every press release I wrote. Every time I smiled next to Dad at a community event. I was helping him hide a torture operation. February 2013. The call that changed everything. Maria? This is Agent Martinez with the FBI. We'd like to speak with you about your father's department. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely hold the phone. I don't know anything, I lied. We think you might know more than you realize. Would you be willing to meet with us? I hung up. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Anthony Brown. About all the men who'd been beaten while I stayed silent. About the families who would never know why their sons, their fathers, their brothers came home broken, if they came home at all. The choice was simple. Keep protecting the man who raised me. Or protect the people he was destroying. 3 days later, I called Agent Martinez back. I need to tell you everything, I said. I need to tell you what my father really is. March 15, 2013. Federal Building, downtown LA. The hardest day of my life. For 6 hours, I told the FBI everything. The ghost program. The gladiator fights. The systematic targeting of minorities. The cover-ups. I gave them documents. Audio recordings. Names and dates. I betrayed everything I'd been raised to protect. And with every word, I felt my family die. Agent Martinez asked me why I was coming forward. Because, I said, I realized I had a choice, be my father's daughter, or be the person he taught me to be before power corrupted him. Dad was arrested 8 months later. October 2013. Federal charges, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, making false statements. When they put him in handcuffs, he looked right at me. He knew. How could you do this to our family? He whispered. How could you do this to our community? I whispered back. That was the last time we spoke. Lee Baca, the most powerful sheriff in America, was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison in 2017. 18 of his deputies were also convicted. The LA County jail system underwent the largest reform in its history. Torture was replaced with treatment. Cover-ups were replaced with transparency. Lives were saved. But the cost. Dad died in prison 2 years into his sentence. Heart attack. He was 78 years old. My mother won't speak to me. My brothers refuse to see me. The community that once celebrated my family now calls me a traitor. I lost everything I loved to save people I'd never met. But here's what I learned. Sometimes loving someone means stopping them from hurting others, even if it destroys you both. People ask if I regret exposing my father. The answer is complicated. I regret that power corrupted him. I regret that I stayed silent for so long. I regret that it took an FBI investigation to make me find my courage. But do I regret speaking out? Never. Because Anthony Brown survived. Because the torture stopped. Because no more families had to lose their sons to my father's version of justice. Lee Baca thought he was above the law, because he was the law. But no one, not sheriffs, not judges, not anyone, is more powerful than the truth. And sometimes, the truth can only come from the people who love the monsters most. My name is Maria Baca. And this is why I exposed my father.